Swipe. Swipe your
What?
screen. Swipe your screen.
Which way?
There you go.
Well, that's exactly where we started our show today, Susan. You guys are ready to go.
Okay. This is not my strength.
Oh man. No, it's unplugged. I like it. This is fresh. Well, how are you today, Susan? I'm excited for today.
Excited because I've never met you guys, and you've done so much good work for One Library at a Time, and you've changed the way we look at how we operate, and that's very significant. Because we're trying to do it in other countries as well. Now that we know you guys can do it, we're trying to pursue that in other areas. Rachel was in Peru when everything kind of went south in Peru, and she taught Eddie's cousins how to do it. So now there's Peruvians that can do it in Peru. Like, you can do it, you're Panamanians, you can do it in Panama. So y'all have taken us to a whole different space and
a whole different level.
Yeah. And
well, let me explain the back connection real quick, just for anybody who hasn't watched another one, or they might not know who Hani and Leica are. When I was in Peace Corps, I lived with a host family for a while in the community where I served. And Hani and Leica were my host sisters. Yes. And so, I think we became pretty close pretty fast on my end. And, they were my family while I was there, and they're still my family. And I got involved in libraries when I was in Peace Corps. And so, I would sort of volunteer Hani and Leica that I needed some help. Can we please, get on this project or whatever? And they helped me so many times. And I'm going to let them talk a little bit about what they've done. I left about 5 years ago, guys. Does that sound right? More or less, 2015, I think. So I left about 5 years ago, and they have been on interesting adventures. They've learned new languages. So I'm going to let them talk about that. And then we will wrap it back around, because several years ago now, they were willing to start coming volunteering with us. And now they are some in-country leads for us in Panama, like Susan's saying, taking it to a whole new horizon for us. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us kind of what the opportunities you've been on and what you've been doing these past couple of years.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leica.
Hello, my name is Dani. We are sisters, and
we were the family of Rachel when she was in Panama.
Yeah, we helped her a little bit. She was trying to involve us all the time in her activities, which we enjoy. Yeah, pretty good adventures as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, the interest in the library started when Rachel decided to tell us if we wanted to help her and learn about the library, how to make a library. And we were interested in learn language, and the library was bilingual, so we started learning English with the library.
Yes, that's right.
And by that time,
we didn't speak anything.
By the time we didn't speak anything, and we were trying to help with the library. So we started learning the English with the library. At the same time, we made the first library.
Yeah. Because when I lived there, you guys were in high school, and you had English class, but we all know what it is like to have a language class. You sort of get the vocab, and then, are you really learning anything, basically, And I know we had like we would have language class on your patio sometimes.
Oh yeah, I
Remember? And
remember
your
that.
friend would come.
Yes,
Yeah.
the little tape board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Some of
also
the
have to.
guys enjoy it
What,
as well.
honey? What did you say?
Some other guy enjoy it as well because we were
Yeah.
learning
One of your
a bit
friends.
of English. Mhm.
I also have to say like a funny thing just about because I knew Spanish when I came to Panama, but I mean, after living there with you guys for a couple of years, it just went to a whole nother level. But I remember, I just have to say this about Hany's name, because you spell it, like we see it on the screen, it's Hany. But whenever you told me your name, I kept thinking you were saying honey, like miel, which is, honey in Spanish is miel. And for the longest time, I just could not figure out. I'm like, is her name? But like, because that's not in Spanish. And then I was kind of confused. And then like finally, honey, like it made sense and it clicked. But for the longest time, I think I was calling you honey.
It's funny. Yeah.
There are so many like language mistakes and blunders you make, when you're learning a new language. But anyway, yeah, back to you guys. So where did you guys, after I left, because I know you helped me with some libraries, and like you said, the one library at a time manuals are bilingual. And so like after I left, you got a few interesting travel opportunities.
Oh yeah, that's true. After you left the country, because you needed to come back, we kept studying. My sister and we got scholarships to study in another country. I went to Ireland, and my sister went to Canada.
I went to Canada.
Quebec. And it was a pretty nice experience because we learned more about cultures. We opened our minds a little bit more. And yes, I learned about culture is really important.
Yeah.
And the language, it was a whole new experience to us. Yes. Because it was our first travel, to be honest.
Yeah, it was your first international travel.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't just go there for a few weeks. I mean, you lived there for 6 months. Honey was in Ireland, and Leica, was it 9 months for you?
I think, no, 6 months. So.
6 months. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was good. First
yeah. So, I mean, I was super impressed about, just like your level, how it's increased and elevated. Anybody who's lived abroad, after you're there for a couple of months, you really get a handle. And I could have never seen like how you guys have become part of us, part of One Library at a Time. And it's only helped us, like selfishly. I'm like, it's helped One Library at a Time so much because you work with both English speakers and Spanish speakers, and so to be able to go back and forth and explain the system to both languages is really helpful when you're in a new place. And then you guys have both studied. I know, Leica, you finished your studies. And
yeah, I already finished my degree. So yeah.
And
my degree was in tourism.
Okay.
One thing about the scholarship is like we are so grateful that we started the library, because the library was our first experience involved with the language.
Because we have some volunteers from Peace Corps. So yes.
Yeah. Like the connection between the library until we get the scholarship, this whole process, learning English, making the library, like how this library involved us in the language, and after that experience helped us
actually
learning more about the language.
Yeah, that's great. In a useful way too, not just because you wanted to learn, but because it was like a necessary help to the system. And Honey, you're still studying, but what are you're going to finish soon?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to finish the next year. So yeah, I am a student maritime port operations. So because we here have Panama Canal and we are a country who have oceans and ocean, so I think it's a great degree. I like it.
Yeah, because you guys don't live far from the canal. You don't live far from the canal or Panama City.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We live like 2 hours maybe.
2 hours.
Yeah.
with traffic.
Yeah, with traffic.
It's not far away, but you know the traffic
Traffic.
jam and all this stuff.
Oh, I know. Susan and I know about the traffic. When you roll
Oh,
into Panama
Oh, really?
City,
How was this experience?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we have, you just have to be flexible. And I know y'all know that very well, that you plan, and the plans sometimes go in a different direction than you thought they would.
Yeah.
It's true.
But you're talking about the bilingual thing. That's one of the reasons why we have the how-to booklet, how to build a library, one library at a time, in Spanish and in English, so that you speak Spanish, as do the people you work with, but it can also maybe help you learn some, I call them library words. I can speak Spanish library quite well, but regular Spanish, not so much.
Yes, it's almost the same for us. We can understand the library and the vocabulary that you need for make the library, and other people to understand what are you saying, but we are still learning English.
Yes, we are still learning.
but some of those words, Susan, like, yeah, I mean, I think it's really, I've had both of Honey and Leica with me on a trip, and I'm like trying to explain like the word for, I don't know, like note card, or, like a plastic sheet of paper. It's not paper, but it's not plastic. So like trying to explain, and then Honey or Leica will be like, bam. I'm like, yep, that's why you're on a trip with me.
I have to pop in for just a second. My favorite one that Susan tries to explain every time we travel is a Sharpie.
Oh,
we need to learn that one. We need to get that word.
I think we should just say marker, maybe. Marcador? I don't know. What do you guys
think?
think?
It never works out properly,
No.
though. We always end up with one of those big, giant, black permanent markers. I had to pop in because it's happened so many times.
And that's something maybe you guys can help us with, because in some countries they literally don't have some of the supplies.
Yeah.
You cannot buy books in the Dominican Republic. There are no bookstores. You can't buy the index cards. You can't buy the plastic sleeves. Most of our supplies can't be bought in the country where we're working. And that's why we always try to send enough supplies so that they can double the size of the library. And we've talked about before how we always, our carry-on suitcase is full of supplies, because if we get somewhere and we don't have books, we can deal with that if we're losing a suitcase of books. But if we get there with no supplies, yeah,
you can work without the supplies.
Yes, they're really important.
They're really important because the people use the supplies to write everything and organize everything. I think if you want to have the library in perfect condition, and like, you have to have the cards. You need it. It's so necessary.
That's how the system works.
Yes.
Yeah. All on the index cards.
Yes.
So we were hoping that you guys would talk a little bit about what it was like being a second, because Susan and I have just, like last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about being first and being seconds and kind of our structure of volunteering. So you guys have been both, and just kind of wanted to see, you know, what are your thoughts on the learning process, being a second, and then coming into leading your own trips?
Well, I think being a second, actually to start to learn, I think the best way to start to learning how to actually build a library, it's by volunteer with someone who already knows and go and do it. Because if someone explain you, it's a little bit confusing. But when you're actually making it, it's the best way to learn. Also, you learned how to explain others, and you're learning as well because people is asking you. So in this way, you have more questions, and you can ask the person who is with you, who actually knows, the leader. I will say the leader. And it's a really, really beautiful experience.
I think when
You have so many questions.
I think the best way for learn is when you are helping. Like the first time is helping because you have a lot of questions on how to make this. Like and the person that is helping you, the leader, they're gonna help you. And that way you know the question that the other person have when there are when there are the volunteers. So when you become a leader, you are already gonna know what the questions are gonna be, like how to make this, how to make that.
How can I divide the books?
Yeah, this is the big question.
Yes, the author, the title, how is this gonna be like? What is first? Are those little questions that makes the difference? And I think because having the experience now to be a leader, it's we know more or less the questions they are gonna ask, and being able to speak like English and a little bit of English and Spanish, we can actually, because we don't just work with Spanish, we have volunteers from Corpus normally.
Yes, and actually we work with indigenous communities
and
too, so they speak
dialects, and so we have a combination of dialects, Spanish and English. So, and then we are between trying to explain in English and trying to explain in Spanish, because sometimes because they speak dialect, people who don't speak Spanish don't understand what they're more or less trying to say. And then we are there.
Yeah. So like, I think Susan and I mentioned this before, but Panama has like 4 or 5 indigenous groups.
Yes.
Still. Yeah. And so a lot of them live on kind of like what we would think of in the US as reservations. The government has portioned off land for them. And so that is, unfortunately, that is a lot of probably some of the poorest areas in Panama. And then you have on top of that, the kids who are like learning Spanish in school, but some of their parents still only really speak
dialect,
the indigenous language. And then, you know, you couple that with a lot of volunteers who speak English. So you're going, I mean, there's a lot of languages happening, you know?
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. So you guys did 2 libraries already this year, right? Before everything happened with the virus. Yeah.
The first one was in Boca.
The first one was in Boca. The second one was in Darien.
Okay.
Oh, she already made 2 libraries, and I made another 2 libraries.
But it was with you, Rachel.
Yeah.
So
we alone, We have done two.
This
First
year.
one
Together.
this
We have
year.
two
in
together.
in the beginning of January, we did Booker's Library. It was a really, really nice experience because it was the first one.
Being a leader. She
Being a
was the
leader.
leader.
Oh no, I couldn't do it without her. It's so much. It's
I was the
actually work.
secretary.
You were the
Yeah.
secretary.
Yeah. No,
So,
it's a lot of work. It's not just about the library. It's about the logistics, about the transport, and
The
getting
books
everything done.
on time and yeah,
yeah.
speak with the community,
Meeting.
letting them know what we're doing, why we are there, try to involve them in our little project, and so yeah, it's a whole process.
She wasn't sure of the the library under like in charge of the order or everything about the library. And I was the secretary writing everything about the itinerary. We have itinerary.
Because I like
The
She
budget.
was the connection, speaking with us, with a person, explaining how is the process,
Yeah.
being the translator. She was the translator. Sorry.
you did it, Sue.
So
Yeah.
so Bocas is way on the, well, it looks like northern part of Panama, but really western end, right? And then the other one you guys did was in the Darien, which is the complete opposite side of the
Opposite.
country.
Yes, it's true. Because Boca del Toro is close to Costa Rica. In
Yeah.
Darien, it's close to Colombia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but there was a big difference too, even in the travel, because in Bocas, I think you took a plane and then a bus.
Yeah.
Yes.
We take a plane that was 2 hours, and after that, we take a bus for 1 hour.
Oh, the plane was 45 minutes,
No,
but
sorry.
also we have to travel. Like we have to take a travel from our little town that it's more in the east side, and then go to the terminal, and then take a plane there, and then take another bus to actually be in the town that is called La Mesa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you buy books in David at all, or is everything in Panama City?
That is one thing. It's because, like you already say, Susan, that it's hard to find place for get the little cars and all this stuff. We have some like 3 or 4 places that you can buy that. The
In that
cars,
bed.
the supply. It's not it's not like we have a lot of mall or like store that we can buy the supply. So
In another province.
we try to buy everything in the city.
We make connections with the girl, the volunteer, and she decided to come to the city, and then we buy all the books so we could take care of them and then travel with all the books.
Because
Pretty heavy.
in the other province, you cannot find this type of product.
Yeah, we have
Right.
piracy of books.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done the advantage with a lot of the Peace Corps volunteers is that the Peace Corps office is located in Panama City. So throughout the year, they're doing these trainings, or, you know, Peace Corps bring them into the city for whatever reason. So Heine and Lake have been able to really take advantage of that on a couple of libraries. And when they happen to be there, Heine and Lake will go meet up with them in the city, and they'll go book buying, you know. And so that's a huge chunk of the time that Susan and I usually normally spend when we go somewhere. We're spending an afternoon buying books. And it's a lot, you know, it's like mental. I mean, you're trying to get the best. You're trying to like get the most for the library you can. You're traveling back and forth. You're counting it whenever we get, you know, to the site. And, you know, and then there's sometimes too where David, which is like also closer to Costa Rica, where we have, I think one of you was on me with a trip where we went there and we bought books in David the day before, and then we went to the girls' site the next day. But the way you guys have been doing it, it's I just feel like maybe it's a little bit more relaxed. You have time to, you know, a little bit more you know, energy and time to really look through it. And then, yeah, it's just really up to you guys to hoist those wherever you're going to go.
And I think in Panama, you can like find different books. You can find a lot of books, not just a few books, like, you know,
In the city,
Yeah.
yeah.
in the city.
In Panama
More
City,
variedad.
variety.
Yeah, more variedad.
Do you get maps?
Right.
Do you get maps and things?
Maps, and with some of the money, you guys buy maps and laminas.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
We see.
Actually, there was one that you used to love that was in Darien. Do you remember?
Yeah. In the end, we buy one
Pretty huge.
pretty huge.
And the
about it.
kids were like, wow. And they were like pointing over like animals. Like this lamina was about the most significant things from every country. For example, in Panama,
Oh, cool.
they put Panama Canal. In other countries, they put like monuments. Yes, it was.
So it was like a big map, and then it
map.
took
Big map.
a map of the world, and then it took out different interesting things from each country with
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Everyone, as soon as arrived to the place, they were like watching the
Oh.
map.
And yeah,
I
it
like
was
one of
pretty-
those.
yeah.
I know, right? Where did you buy that, actually? Susan and I might.
Well,
Yeah,
we're,
our next trip to bring you supplies and things, maybe we'll go find a map.
Yeah, but what's this?
she was
We were
looking
lucky
for it.
because we find the last one
Yeah.
map in the store.
Oh, okay. In Panama City?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
we
Cool.
try to find that map in another place, but they don't have it. So
Yeah.
we were lucky.
We were like actually searching for it.
You were on the front.
Yeah, and
You're
I
right.
like the maps for the kids because they can see where in the world they are.
That's right.
So they can say, oh, here's Panama, and here's the canal, and I live below the canal, or I live above the canal, or Rachel that helped us, she lives, you know, in the United States. And sometimes when I go and the kids or the adults ask me where I'm from, I say, do you know where Miami is? And most people know where Miami is. And I say, do you know where New York is? I live in the middle. Because Charlotte really is sort of in the middle between New York and Miami. And that's what the maps can tell the kids. This is Panama, this is where I live. My cousin has moved to Costa Rica or whatever, but it expands their horizons. And that's what we want to do with the books. It's what I do with the books. When I'm getting, I don't know, tired or frustrated or in my life, I go find a book, and then I can just go into the book and become almost one of the characters in the book. And it takes me away from my reality for a little bit. And that's one of the things we want to do for the kids. If they're having a hard time, you know, with anything,
Yeah.
they can go get a book and dive into it and sort of put their reality, whatever's bothering them, away for a little while so that they can focus on the Cat in the Hat or on the DK eyewitness books that tell you about fish and mountains and oceans, and so they can think about those things instead of about the fact that their teachers aren't there, or you know, maybe a girl's having trouble with a boy. And they can walk away from that for a little bit.
Yeah,
I think the books can open our minds. Like living here in a small country, by reading, we can open our mind to another place. It's not just the things that we have in our country. We can have another view to the other place in the world.
Yeah, it's really true. It's a way to escape as well, because so many kids have well, their parents can't afford sometimes food. Sometimes they are worried because their parents are worried, and it's a hard reality here. I will say yes.
Yeah.
So with the books, I think they like create, imagined, and as you said, they go a little bit away and make their happy. It make their life a little bit happy.
Yes. Sometimes it's hard to believe that we don't have, like, in some of these places, they don't have internet, so they can go to the library and make their homework by this library.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, Susan and I have gotten into this some, but if the resources aren't there, if the books aren't there, I would say that a lot of kids in Panama are not raised to love reading, to even like know that books are an outlet. And so I think part of our work and our battle, every country looks at literature and literacy differently, you know, based on how their parents grew up, based on the resources that were available. I mean, I think oral storytelling is kind of a thing in Panama. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times your mom would be like, Rachel, you know, let's go to the patio. We're gonna echar cuentos, which is like we're just gonna tell stories, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, she'd be like, she'd lay back in the hammock and say, like, dime un cuento, tell me a story, Rachel. And so I'd be like, you know, going back in the resources of my growing up and my history, trying to make something interesting, you know. But so I think like that's a tradition in Panama. But just, I mean, I'm sure you guys are seeing just how, bringing the resources opens up a whole new world to them. But you're also kind of fighting against the stereotype of like what a book is, especially for adults, and like what it can do, you know. So, but it is just interesting to see when the resources are there, and then they start growing up and have some time with books and understand the adventure and the impossibilities and the imagination that comes with reading. You know, it really can change your mind.
Another thing is the age that we have, our age, because sometimes we work with young, like people from our age, so we have like common topics, like similar topics to talk about it, and sometimes we try to find books about the same stuff, and they can speak with us about the same topic, and they are like, why these young people is so passionate about it, about this topic, about the making a library. So they start asking us about why you're so passionate about the libraries, and we start explaining about our history, like how reading books and all making libraries help us. So they get interested.
Yeah, they actually get really like, wow, this is really interesting, and they got the importance of books and the lectura, the reading. Yeah, I have to mention a little story that actually, as you said, sometimes books are really expensive for people who, you know, barely have sometimes for food and all this stuff, have another things to pay, I will say. Actually, here in the family, my mom started teaching us by newspaper because we didn't actually could buy a book.
Yeah.
So she always buy a newspaper. It was just 25 cents coins. It was pretty cheap. We start reading news. And then just one woman one day give us she give us a big book. It was old, but it was just un libro de cuentos. How would you say?
Like a
Yeah.
storybook.
Yeah,
Like a storybook. Yeah.
like a storybook. So it was like a 100 stories in there. And then
Oh,
we started actually reading, but we didn't buy it. It was because someone gave us to us.
Wow.
So, yeah,
So for that reason, we know this help.
really, it's actually we're proud
That's
of what we're
work.
doing
Yeah.
and what you're doing as an organization.
And we know that if you start teaching the kids, they're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
grow up with that, like
Yeah,
reading.
because even a newspaper helps.
Yeah.
When I lived
Okay,
in
I'm gonna
Spain,
talk
when I was
real
trying to
quick.
learn
My
Spanish,
coffee is
that's exactly
cold.
what I did.
Oh gosh, we're all gonna talk. It's storming really bad here, so I'm gonna have to tell you guys to wrap it up, or else the storm's gonna wrap it up for us.
Oh, yeah. It's about that time anyway.
Well, stuff's flickering, so like it's it's about to go.
Well, my coffee's cold.
Can't let that happen. Cannot let that happen. Well, maybe you guys can come back next week and
Yeah,
and we can keep talking. It's so great to have you on and so
I
interesting.
think it would be really cool to talk some more about Panama as a whole too. I mean, and you guys would be great to be on for something like that because
Well,
you know it better than any of us.
and it would be interesting for us to hear about COVID, the coronavirus, and how that's affecting
Oh, yeah.
the Panama, and because we don't get a whole lot of news about what's going on in some of the other countries. So yeah, well, thanks for being here. This has been fun.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can come back. I would love to
Yeah.
chit chat some too.
Yeah, maybe you can
All
come back
right.
next week. We'll see you.
See
Yeah,
you.
we'll see you.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.